Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today for this NRF Big Ideas session. My name is Gina Acosta. I'm the editor-in-chief of Progressive Grocer, and with me today is Senchal Murphy. She's the Senior Director of Human Resources at Kroger. So, wow, there's somebody really loud out there. So I think we all know that employee turnover is a huge problem in grocery. We're barreling toward a 20% increase over pre-pandemic numbers, and talent challenges definitely persist. So how did one company, in this case Kroger, transform its onboarding experience to center the associate, cultivate a culture of BYOD learning, which we're going to talk a lot about, and help mitigate attrition? That's why we have Senchal here, who I absolutely love. I'm so excited to be with her here today on this stage. She's going to talk about Kroger's best-in-class onboarding experience, and also how Kroger is taking a data-driven approach to associate enablement that supports their people-first ethos. Welcome, Senchal.
Thank you.
So, Senchal, Kroger has an award-winning onboarding program. It's an area that many companies struggle with, right? Even though it's so crucial to the associate experience. In Kroger's case, Kroger calls its employees associates. Crucial to the associate experience, and loyalty and retention. So, Senchal, talk to us first about the approach that Kroger has taken when designing the onboarding experience, if you will.
Yeah, I would tell you a few years ago, we were challenged, like most companies are, with our onboarding. And in early 2020, I think right before we realized there was a pandemic upon us, we set upon, really a journey to revamp and reimagine our onboarding approach and framework. And we did that in a very strategic way. We did a lot of benchmarking, a lot of research, a lot of really understanding what do associates, I'll call our employees associates, what do they expect in an employer? What makes them choose to stay and grow with an organization? And from a lot of that work, we really found that there are 11 moments that matter in the associate life cycle and journey that, when done well, reaffirm an associate's choice to stay and grow with us. And conversely is true, when we mess those up, it creates friction and opportunity for turn. So we really leaned into those 11 moments that matter. And one of the first moments is onboarding. And when we think about onboarding, we think about that in three ways. We think about pre-board, what happens before you ever show up and start on day one. What's orientation, that really great first day experience that creates that spark of, yes, I joined the right company and I have an opportunity to thrive here. And then secondarily, what's role-based development? What's that personalized experience that I give that upskills me, prepares me to serve and take care of customers in the most confident way? So we really did overhaul our onboarding program and approach. And I would tell you that's probably one of the reasons that why we did have turnover, just like everyone else in a pandemic environment. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, because we did a lot of the hard work. We really leaned into the voice of the associate to understand what impacts their experience. Then I would say, just a couple months later, met with Axonify, and then that took that framework and that process to the next level. So a great onboarding framework then applied with technology to create more of a seamless, friction-free, kind of optimized experience has been really, really fantastic for us. When we think about onboarding, we're a grocery store, we sell green beans and peas. We need to keep things simple. So some of the principles that we really adhere to are really simple, effective, engaging, and repeatable. And if I can't teach you how to do a role that a new hire can perform in just a few minutes, in 30 minutes, then we have an issue. It's not simple enough. So when we think about role-based development, that's a component of onboarding. Simplicity and effectiveness is really, really critical. So just tell you, we have completely reimagined. We reimagined it with a voice of the associate, with a lot of great benchmarking and a lot of other partners. And the technology has really optimized how we work.
Okay, I have to ask you, what are those 11 moments? Because I've heard you talk about the 11 moments before, and I'm fascinated. What are the 11 moments? Or maybe you could share some of maybe not all 11, but.
Well, Gina, I'll email you them all, but They hit from pre-board to off-board, right?
Okay.
So, and everything in between, but a couple of them are career development. So, we're a very large company, 420,000 plus associates. We have so many career opportunities. We have some that you couldn't even imagine. But creating opportunities where associates know where they can discover a career is really critically important. And if they know they have career potential, they stay. If they question career potential, they go, right? So getting it right with career potential is another one of those moments.
Okay.
Ongoing development, another one of those moments. There's a lot of critical moments, and we're pretty excited. We strategically lean into the 11.
That is so important in grocery, giving employees, associates, the idea that they can have a career, a really, really wonderful career at a company like Kroger is so crucial, nowadays, especially. So, okay, so I mentioned a little bit about BYOD in the beginning. So I know that Kroger has implemented a BYOD policy across its stores, while also providing shared devices to use in these key moments. But you're a huge, diverse organization, with hundreds of thousands of employees, like you said. How has this technology-first approach to associate enablement changed how you think about training and how you think about business outcomes, really?
Yeah. I think it's really important that wherever you choose to join us in our company, and if you don't know about the Kroger company, we really are a family of banners. And so whether you choose to join us in our Fry's family of stores or in our Kroger banner stores or in our Harris Teeter, you have a common, consistent experience. And some of the technology helps create that common, scalable, simple experience. So that's the one thing. We want you to feel like you've got that consistent experience regardless of where you join us, regardless of what level you join us as well, whether you're serving customers frontline or in the supply chain environment or a manufacturing environment, common, consistent experience. And the technology is allowing us to do that better. I mean, we are relying on thousands of leaders to really onboard, train, and upskill. That's kind of daunting. Those are some of the things that keep me up at night. Did we get that right? Did we make sure we got to every associate? So the technology really does help us bring much of that together. I would also then say, large company, there's a need to get to associates pretty fast and to upskill and reskill them in real time. And some of the great things that we're now able to do is build really simple but highly effective training, push it through. We call Axonify Fresh Start in our company. We're a fresh company, so we want to amplify our brand. We're able to push training through Fresh Start in real time. So when the operators are saying I have a business need, it takes us very little time to develop training, push training, and get that training to hundreds of thousands of associates in real time. That is driving behavior change. And we all know adult learners, they learn with repetition and over time. And some of the wonderful things I think about Axonify and how we use it with training is how we're repetitive, how we continue to bring that training back to associates and make sure they turn that into a habit, something that we're consistent with. And as a grocer, consistency is really key. We want to have a consistent and differentiated customer experience, and we do that through our associates. So being able to be very agile, real time, deploy highly effective training in flow of work is really exciting for us and has been really a game changer. In the past, I'll just go back maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it would have taken us a while to design, a while to deploy. We would have had no real clue outside of our LMS, who took it, how effective it was. We're really now able to push training very quickly, very effectively, and really know, where's that out? How many associates have engaged for better outcomes for our customers? What we're really thrilled about, though, is we're now at the point in the journey where we're able to connect our training to business outcomes. And as an HR partner and professional, that's always been a challenge. Like, what's the return on investment for training? Everyone's always asked that question. Mm-hmm. Very few of us can answer it in a very effective way for many of our leaders in our companies. So recently we have an arm of our company, 8451 is our data analytics arm. They were able to work with Axonify, and they were able to make a true correlation between training, and specifically what I'm talking about is our focus on friendly. So we want to make sure every customer that comes into our building has a friendly, consistent, engaging experience. We do a lot of training on friendly behaviors and expectations. We were able to make a correlation between highly engaged stores that engage in training have better friendly outcomes and also higher net promoter scores with our customers. That's really important to us. That is telling us our training works. It's making a behavior change and a difference. And it's also making a meaningful shift with our customers. As our company, we're continuing to be focused on, our ID sales, our market share growth. So seeing those really true connections really do matter. And it's a really positive thing that we're starting to get behind and see.
Excellent, excellent. So you mentioned reskilling and upskilling. So I just wanted to ask you, since the pandemic, and there's just been so much, challenge in terms of labor and all of that, how important is it now for you to have something like Axonify to really help you with the reskilling and upskilling of your associates?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. So, we do not relying on going external and finding talent. We need to lean into our own talent. We have 420,000 amazing associates. They're sitting right around us every single day. We have an onus as a leadership team to lean into the opportunity to develop, upskill, reskill, give them every opportunity to grow and thrive with our organization. So we do lean into the opportunity to develop talent while we do look for great talent to always join our company. And it's been really fantastic the way that we're able to upskill in real time. And a great example of how an SVP called me a couple weeks ago and said, hey, we're having an issue and we're having some shrink issues in our chicken commodity. And, what do you think that we can do to create kind of a second chance opportunity with chicken so we don't have a shrink opportunity? And I said, well, that's a great idea. Let me go back to the team and let's work with the ops team and we'll circle back with you. And within a week, we had a really great YouTube-based video on how to make rotisserie chicken into second chance chicken, repurpose it for your salads or rotisserie chicken salad.
Right.
And push that directly to thousands of associates who now were able to watch this quick 45, 60-second video and now effectively understand what to do. So I'm upskilling, reskilling in flow of work, and that has a business outcome to it. So I gave you just a really granular topic. We're
awesome.
also going further, though, on taking, leadership development and topics like mental health and well-being in the flow of the work through the device. So how do we think about micro-based leadership development, in time, real time, giving you bite-sized development to meet you where you're at, and do that over time? We're getting a lot of really great feedback and wins there. So completely leaning into the opportunity to develop our own talent, and I think that's critically important in the ongoing labor market.
Absolutely, totally agree. So let me ask you about some of the themes that have been dominating conversations in 2023. Some of those themes include employee well-being, which you sort of touched on, manager enablement, and associate career pathing, all of which point to really just taking care of your people. So what are some of Kroger's people-first priorities this year? I can't wait to hear about this because I know that Kroger really focuses on this. So.
Yeah. So passionate about this topic. So maybe I'll just get started by saying, as a company, we have a purpose to feed the human spirit, and that looks specific to the associate, the customer, and communities that we serve. And how we bring that purpose to life is through highly effective leaders, thriving associates, and a differentiated customer experience. And as people leaders, and I don't say that as an HR, every leader of others is a people leader. We've declared 3 specific people priorities that help amplify thriving leaders, thriving associates, and highly effective leaders, pillar of that strategy. And so we really lean into developing our leaders, connecting and retaining our talent, and advocating for our associates and our well-being. So that's kind of like our rally cry as people leaders, those 3 things. And those 3 things really are, supported by critical, training or approaches to really bring those strategies to life. So I'll just maybe touch on
Okay, perfect.
a couple of them. When we think about developing highly effective leaders, our associates bring the customer experience to life. those associates are supported by highly effective leaders. And we need to make sure they're supported in that way every single time. And so we lean into a lot about how do we create highly effective leaders across stores, sites, plants, offices, thousands of locations to make sure our associate experience is everything it needs to be for our customer experience. One of the things that we really believe and we're currently focused on is developing a general manager mindset and capability, where our managers are really focused on having a deep sense of ownership in the business, a focus on improving while keeping our associates and people at the heart of everything they do. And that's really supported by a deep financial data, people acumen. So a lot of what we focus on is how do you bring that to life? How do you have a GM mindset across every location that we lead? So a lot that goes into that specific strategy. Other things that we do is when our associates are right, everyone thrives around them. So focus a lot on well-being. And for us, we focus on holistic well-being, emotional, physical, financial, career, and community, and make sure our leaders have the tools and the resources they need to support their well-being and in turn support the well-being of others. And then maybe I would mention there's just a lot of different things that we do in the development space and the ability to connect and retain talent. But one of the important ones, and I mentioned it earlier, is really creating an opportunity where associates can see themselves growing in the organization. So being very intentional with career pathing conversation, making sure associates know where they stand, are really clear on their performance, their career, their development. Creating clarity solves a lot of opportunity for us. So really, really intentional in that space. And just a number of things that we do to support associate advocacy. First of all, a really great total compensation package is necessary, but above and beyond that, doing additional things so that our associates know that they're supported and cared for. One example is we're working with ACO Financial Coaching. It's a component of Goldman Sachs, where all of our associates will soon receive financial coaching. So think about, you're an hourly associate, you now have access to financial coaching, whether that's building a budget or preparing to buy a home, and that's really meaningful, right? And that can make a difference in an associate's life. That's just one of many things that we're doing in that specific space. But I would say that entire strategy, those three,
Right.
developing our leaders, connecting, retaining our talent, advocating for our associates, is on top of a kind of, I'd say, a foundation of listening. We do really listen to our associates and what do they need and how can we best support as their employer to create the best experience that we can.
So I want to ask you to drill down a little bit on the whole well-being focus of really embracing your associates and supporting their well-being. I know that you guys do amazing work, trying to support them when it comes to mental health and everything, all of their entire health quotient or whatever. And that's, I think, especially important now in these times when we're having all of these crises and everything. So just talk a little bit more about how Kroger supports the well-being, and especially the mental well-being of associates.
Yeah, I think we can all probably really resonate that the last few years, they have been really challenging, and they've been challenging for different reasons. And we have associates with a lot on their heart and minds. And when I talk about the leader experience and developing highly effective leaders, that's because in our company, these leaders lead teams of 300 to 1,000 associates. So they're really responsible for knowing what's on the hearts and minds of our associates and how can we make it a better experience. There probably would have been years that there was a clear line between an associate's home life and work life, and you wouldn't dare cross a certain threshold. But now it's our responsibility to see that an associate might be struggling and to intervene, not to be their therapist, but to intervene and to provide the right support and care. We've actually partnered with Anthem as one of our providers that we work with our benefits, and they have helped provide counselors to upskill our leaders on how to look for the signs and symptoms of mental health. And when those signs are there, how do we connect them with our benefits and our resources so associates have what they need when they need? And that has been extremely meaningful. We've even stepped into areas that I would have never imagined. Years ago, we would have stepped in. We're actually, teaching our leaders to understand what suicide awareness looks like. And it wouldn't be something that you would see on the job description, but the reality is these leaders are close to our associates. And if they see an associate is off and they intervene and they get them the right support with the right counseling and the right resources, it makes all the difference. And we have so many examples of leaders intervening and that associate's better for it. So that's the real work that we're kind of tasked against right now, is just not running supermarket divisions, not just running a supply chain location, but caring for our associates at the deepest level. So that's just one thing I would say, but really making sure our associates know what benefits are available to them. I think you can tell them in onboarding, you can tell them once a year with benefit selection, but do they really know what those benefits mean and what that's part of their package and how they can really take advantage of that? So deep education on employee benefits, whether it's counseling or various things. I mentioned the financial services earlier. Those are really meaningful benefits, ancillary benefits that we really want our associates to take advantage of. So just a few things, but I would just tell you, we look through the lens of how can we support and care for our associates and continue to lean into that any opportunity that we have.
Okay. Last thing, just any parting thoughts, closing thoughts before we maybe have 5 minutes for questions, if anybody has any questions about onboarding, about technology, where things are going this year.
Yeah.
Inflation, macroeconomic climate, whatever.
I'll let Rodney save the inflation comments. I would just tell you that we understand that it continues to be a challenging labor market. We do see good signs with our retention and associate engagement that we're making a turn. So we're really positive and optimistic around the outlook of our associate engagement in our workforce. But there's a lot of work ahead of us, right? It is really us staying committed to those 3 things that we talked about, really leaning in as an organization to produce not just the current generation of thriving, highly effective leaders, but the next generation. We've been around for a long time and we plan to be around for a whole lot longer. And it will require highly effective leaders and the continuity of thriving associates at every point in our organization. So I would just tell you the hard work never stops, but we're really engaged in improving the associate experience at every point that we can. But I do want to maybe double click on what I mentioned earlier. Listening to the voice of the associate has never been more important, and it continues to anchor our strategy. And I couldn't think about something more important is to listen to our associates and make sure that we are informing our decisions based upon their voice.
Wonderful, wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? Oh.
I was curious, when you talked about the app for the video for the chicken.
Yeah.
So how do you get that out to everyone?
Her question. Thank you for the question. Her
Wonderful
question was when I mentioned the example of the chicken training and how did we get that out. So we utilized Axonify to do that. So internally we call Axonify Fresh Start. And we really, in a role-based manner, push that training directly to all of our deli associates and leaders of others. And so it was real time. And they received it either on their personal device or their shared device. We use TC52, TC57 devices, or personal devices. So regardless of how they choose to log in and interact, it was there when they logged in. It was the first thing they saw, and they knew it was important to take the chicken training.
Chicken training.
And I use chicken training, but we do so many things, right? Just chicken's one example. But, for a retailer, we sell chicken. That's an important commodity. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the rotisserie chicken is very important, Senchal.
We have great
It's
chicken.
very important.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So you were talking about training people effective later.
Yes.
So you see those never really look for training, like serious gaming or gamification for that.
Do we use gamification? Oh, yes, so the question was around friendly training, the use of gamification, and we do use gamification within Axonify and some of the functionality that's there. There's a lot of different ways we train on friendly. We actually are activating service training across every location in our company right now, and really teaching service-based behaviors that then are reinforced in Axonify, which we're really excited about. So there are components of gamification we do leverage. Yeah, thank you. Great question.
With the rise of the gig workforce,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
it is working? Okay. With gig working, how are you thinking about flexible shifts and roles?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would tell you, I'm probably not the functional SME of gig working, but I'd tell you we do have, and we do leverage gig working where it applies, often in our supply chain environment, and we continue to leverage technology to create an opportunity for shift swapping, if I can talk. But I think that's just as a part of our holistic strategy of workforce planning. Gig is a part of that, and we do utilize it where it's appropriate.
Any other questions?
Thank you for the question.
Nope. Okay. I think that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Senchal, thank you very, very, very much for this.
Yeah, thank
if anybody wants to learn more about Axonify, by the way, I think that they've got 2 booths on this Expo 1, and one is at 912, and the other one is at 225, I believe. So that's it. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.